All right, guys, I think we're gonna start this panel. If you still haven't bought James's book, they are around. You will sign them. Here they are. Yeah, exactly. All right, so this is going to be super informal. The panel was mentioned as being about acting and directing and acting and writing, but there's also writing and directors up here as well, so we're going to open it up and mix it up a little bit more.
Hey, listen up, guys.
And we're going to basically talk about the pros and cons of putting yourself in your movies and how it is to direct that. And, what are your options? What are your obstacles? Why would you do that to start with? And we're going to introduce everybody here. I'm going to help moderate and be part of the panel. I'm Lucas Hassel. I'm a writer, actor, director. I've done a lot of shorts. I did a feature that I wrote and acted in last year, House of Abraham. So I'm going to offer sort of my take on some of those things. Thank you. You don't have to do that. It's fine. And you?
I am Rachel Thomas Medjid, writer, director, and producer. I've done about 9 short films. I filmed here this year's Dissection Day. We've got a victimized college student who's paired in biology lab with the person who sexually assaulted her. So nice and light, like most of my films. And I have not done a feature yet. I would love to. I have a lot of features written. So that's hopefully sometime soon.
My name is David Reyes, writer, director. We have 5 features that we've done, and we're presently working on our 6th right now called Letty and Jack One Out. We're about to go into production next month or so. And I write, direct, me and my wife, we co-produce, I edit, I DP. So, and we do micro, ultra low budget features. Everything we've done has been under $7,000. So that's how you do it when you do everything, in a small little town. And so this is our 6th one, and that's how we do it.
Hi, my name is Melissa Skirball. I'm a director, writer, actor, producer, editor, all that stuff. I am here this year with a short film, $13, which I directed, co-wrote, and acted in. And I also have a script that was in competition, which is a feature. So far, I have only made shorts, but I've got a couple of feature scripts that are ready to go, as well as a pilot script and that's ready to sell. So,
Just out of interest, hands up, who here has thought about acting, writing, and directing, or have done it already? Right, so a shit ton of people, which is awesome, right? So I guess I want to start with you, Melissa, down here at the end. Like, why would you put yourself as an actor in a project that you wrote, potentially also directed? What's the benefit of that?
masochism. I don't really know. My first short film I had written for myself, and I really wanted to do it, and I wanted to do it before I got too old to do it. And I actually brought on a co-director for the scenes that I was in, so that I could kind of let go a little bit of and not worry about it. The second one I did was with Janine Bartel. It was just a 2-hander, and I had a great DP who also was a director that we really planned everything out in advance. And really, it was just a chance to work with Janine and get something done really quickly. It 100% came because of this festival. When Jim had announced that the next year was going to be the last a couple years ago, Janine and I were sharing a room, and it's like, we have to get something done really fast so that we can submit and be here for the last festival. And this, this seemed to be like a great project that we could do for no money in my apartment with 2 people. And it's like, we did it really fast, and I had to trust my DP and my crew, and like the 2 of us working together in order to, and let go of some of the reins, because I didn't have time to look at every shot and make sure that we were getting exactly what we needed. I could judge her, but I'm like, I don't know, I'm ready to move on.
So when you hear people yell out terms like vanity project because you're doing all the things, how do you feel about that?
With every project that I've put myself in, I've taught Senta, my entire crew, my DP, my assistant director, if this starts to look like a vanity project, stop me in my tracks. Do not let me get away with bullshit. I like, if it's not good, don't, yeah, and I have to trust that they're telling the truth.
Right.
This last one, the one that you'll see Saturday morning, it started as a monologue. My co-writer, Penny, had given it to me during COVID, and I was trying to do something with it during COVID just by myself. And I loved the character and I loved the monologue, and we were looking for, again, something that wouldn't be too expensive, we could just get done this summer. I'm like, what about that monologue? And we started playing with it. I'm like, I think we need 2 people. I think it needs to be a conversation. Let's open it up. And as soon as we did that, I'm like, maybe I should just direct it.
Right.
And Penny's like, no, I can only hear your voice now. Like, I've heard you do the monologue. I've heard you, like, I don't want to cast somebody
So you
else.
felt you were the perfect person.
I didn't. I'm like, I would rather be on the other side and be able to direct it. And we did this. It was a 6-hour shoot on the hottest day of the summer outside. And I literally had no time to, like, Brian and I, the DP, did a lot of pre-production, did a lot of scouting. I told him all of the shots that I was looking to get. And once we were there, I'm just like, did you get it? Let's go. And like, so much trust. And it's not until you're looking at the footage that you have any idea
Right.
what you actually got. And so it's a weird process, I think.
And David, you said you worked with your wife and you sort of do everything yourself apart from acting.
Mhm.
Why is that? Why do you like the control of that? Is it just cheaper, or is it better quality for yourself? What is it?
It's money. I mean, if I could, I know people like I could get, but I can't afford them. And nor do I want to ask them to do what I want them to do and pay them what I can pay them. So I have experience in production. I've been doing it since the 90s. I worked at a TV station where I did commercial production for, 20 years. And so I know what I'm doing, and we have production companies, so we have all the gear. I have all the, we have 3 cameras, I have audio, we have the editing stuff. So I do this professionally all the time. And so why not do it for a project that I'm passionate about rather than a client? And so that's why we got into doing it in the first place. And so it's really financial, and I guess a lot of it is control. I trust my wife. She's my first audience. When I write the script, if I can get the reaction that I want from her, I know I'm on the right path. And so that's my first one. And then after that, I send it to some people that I trust and know. But after that, it's all encompassed in us, and we go. I mean, it's a matter of economy and speed. I'm an impatient person who apparently has control issues. And so it's a matter of, I have the idea in my head, and I want to see it come to life.
Yeah.
And the first time it really comes to life, and it's full circle for me, really, is at the table read. Because I've had these voices in my head for months, with these dialogue going back and forth. And when you have something, you hand it over to somebody you trust them with, an actor, and you see it come to life, that's like a whole great moment in the whole process. And I look forward to that every time. And we're about to have one in this coming month, and I'm really looking forward to it, because again, I've had these voices in my head for months, and it's going to be so amazing to hear somebody else have their take on it. And that's the first time I let go of some of that control. And then in the process of production, it's another chance where I have to let go. And it's easier and easier as we do it, because one, you hire actors who can do it, who you trust, and who are great at the craft. And once you learn to trust an actor, everything just blows up. It's just like, I thought I knew what I wanted, but thank you.
Have you ever acted yourself?
Never. Oh yes, I have. I've been an extra in like the Alamo. I was a Mexican soldado, and I was in the Machete. I was a day worker. Yeah.
So you've been in front of the camera. You
Yeah,
have a
I'm
sense.
typecast as a Mexican, obviously. And so from that I learned. I learned how to treat everyone with value on the set.
Right.
Because when you're on this big thing like that, you treat it like furniture. And so I make sure that on our set, we treat everyone with respect, and we listen to everyone. And so we have very small crews. I mean, like I said, I direct, I DP, I do sound. We have a set of maybe like 4 people, 5 people on our crew. So it's a small thing, and with our actors, everyone has a voice.
Right.
And we always make sure that we have that. So if you have an idea, you have a comment, we go with that. We listen to that and we go. So.
And you're here as a writer-director, but you also act, right?
I do not.
You do not act at all?
Well, okay, I have extra, people have asked me to do cameos.
Mhm.
And I'm coming up in one called Face Crusher Legends. And I get my face
Heard it
crushed
here
in. It's gonna be huge. No, but I am very uncomfortable in front of the camera. I have a great regard for actors and what you all do, but I have no interest in it. I make films to tell a story, and I think well, first of all, I'm not a good actor, so maybe I'd feel differently if I were, but again, I don't have an interest in doing it. So I think that would be, I have respect for you guys who do both, because, I only heard from you two about your feature. Did you direct that? How's it Abraham?
No.
Oh, okay. But that's two different brain spaces. So I do have a high regard for you guys doing that. And not, getting that story.
I couldn't get out of my head.
Exactly.
Ah.
Yeah.
I just could not.
Right.
But I think it's interesting because I think originally we were sort of meant to sort of talk about people who do all the hats, and I just want to I want to make sure we cover that. And I'm someone, first of all, who thinks it's great to take initiative of your own career, right? Too many actors sit at home and wait for their agents to call them, or the manager is going to do the magic for them. It's great to take charge of your own destiny, right? So I started out as an actor, and that's still primarily what I do. But the older I got, the more tired I was of waiting for everybody else to make it happen for me. So I started writing, became a good writer, and then I realized the real control and power of my own destiny is to direct what I write. I know what I can do as an actor, so for me it was a no-brainer to stick myself in some of the material because I knew exactly what the characters were going through or what I needed from this and this. But of course, there are challenges with sticking yourself in front of the camera where you're also directing. There's a huge benefit in doing it if you also wrote it, right? Because if you wrote it, you understand what your characters are going through. Hopefully you've done all that subtext work and background work, so it's an easy thing to take on. But you can sometimes shortchange yourself on set because you feel awkward about taking time when it's on you, when there are other actors. You start undercutting your own work because you don't want to make anybody feel like it's a vanity project. It's all in it for himself, right? And in my case, it was just easier. It was one less actor to worry about because I had myself right there, right? And then it's a matter of, I think, surrounding yourself with, you have to have someone whose eye you trust, I suppose, on set, like all you who have done it, knows you need that person to go, oof, I think you should just do one more. But with experience, you also get a sense of what works and what doesn't work. So I think it's just important to understand the pros and cons of taking all that into your own hands. And it comes down to what are you after? Because you run a risk, I think, sticking yourself in front of the camera and directing it. Because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You're going to look silly, like you didn't do yourself a favor, right? So really understand why are you taking this risk of sticking yourself in front of the camera if you wrote it and you're also going to direct it. If you don't think you have the chops for it yet, just maybe build up the experience or start with a smaller project and see if it's worthwhile. But there's a lot of stuff going on, and you have to sort of take off your writer-director hat when you're in front of the camera, because then you're the actor, right? Mm-hmm. And there's really, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I started as an actor too, and started writing because as you get older, the role, especially for women, the roles become non-existent. And it took me a long time to start directing. I never wanted to. I didn't want the control. And as soon as I started directing, I didn't want to act anymore. And every time I end up in front of, I don't have headshots, I don't audition. Every time I end up in front of the camera, it's kind of this weird thing that I'm like, really? But yeah, you have to have those people that Janine can tell you when we work together. She kept saying, take another take. I'm like, no, let's just move on. What you were saying about you don't want to spend too much time on your own stuff because you feel self-conscious or something.
But on the other side of that, like you can see when the person you're working with, if you know their head is in the lens and with you, and you're like, as a gift to them, please take one for yourself where you're not there too.
Yeah, and I think that all comes down to prep work. I think, again, if anybody here was looking for advice, I think you all know what you're doing anyway. We can open this up to questions shortly, but it's all in the prep work, right? Before if you're going to do all those roles, make sure you've done all of the prep work. Make sure your other actors are on board, you've rehearsed it so that you can sort of, when you're on set, you don't want to also be a director while you're acting, because that's going to do your acting a disservice. The biggest thing I see when I see actors directing themselves is that their acting suffers. And that ultimately makes the film suffer, right? So then don't do it. If you're not able to put the two things aside, don't do it. That's all. Writer, actor, absolutely, all day long, but actor, director can make it very, very difficult for yourself, I think. And I have pros and cons for that, but I think if anybody has any questions, we should also sort of open up with stuff. Yeah.
I was just curious, when you are the actor and director, do you look at your playback to make sure you got it before you move on?
Well, I mean, people have different things. I think it's a cost and a time matter, right?
That's what
So I
was-
think you have to sort of wage again, whatever budget and whatever time constraints you have. Ideally, you would like to check the framing of something or see how it actually looked, whatever, but you can't do that for every single take. Your production is going to be 3 times as long. So you have to sort of finesse it. If there's a trickier shot or a trickier something where you're not sure there's camera movement, then definitely check the gate or check the film after that immediately. But if not, then you can you sense it yourself as an actor, I think. I've only had one instance where it really hurt me, and it was like a small thing. I was in The Son, the Father, I'm an actor, writer, director, and I'm in a scene waiting to enter the scene. So the scene has started without me in a different room, and I'm in my actor's hat now, right? And I'm not watching the monitor because I'm prepping what I'm doing as an actor. And we had rehearsed it, we had practiced it. It was a very important scene. This woman in the room was getting a heart attack. And I told her I wanted to grab your chest and be fucking painful. Like, you're getting a real heart attack. We had rehearsed it this way. I wanted it this way. And we shot it thinking, we've worked so hard on it, right? Come to the cutting and the editing of it. She's doing this weird thing like this. She's not grabbing her chest. And I hadn't caught it because I'm outside of the room focusing on my own stuff. And I didn't check the screening after that. I didn't check the tape for that. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I bet you the sound guy told her not to grab her mic. Sure. And she never came to tell me that the sound guy told her that. So she made the executive decision, I'm going to do this instead of checking with me. And I didn't check that particular tape, so I didn't get the shot that I wanted. And I didn't find out about that till we started looking at the footage. So there are costs, but that was just because I started outside of the scene that I was in. Had I been in the scene, I could have seen it and kind of caught, right? So there are definitely some casualties along the way.
Yeah, sound.
Damn sound, the sound guy. Yeah.
Every time.
I have 2 questions. I'm going to try to word them the right way. So one, it was about, you might not have time to look at the monitor every take, right? And so I'm thinking, then do you look at dailies the next morning, or you just wait until you're in the editing room? And then the second one was, when it comes to having somebody that you trust on the monitor, right? Like you and your DP, it's like, oh, we got the shot list, and we got this, and we got, all that, and we got the storyboard and the lighting and all of that. Is it better at that point then, do you think, for that to just be your DP's call so that the net is not too wide? You know what I mean? Or like, how do you guys feel about either of those things?
One thing I would say, like, especially if you're working on a short, I think if you have a budget and you're working on a feature and you have kind of the luxury of dailies, but like the shorts that I did where I acted in, one was a 2-day shoot and the other 2 were both 1-day shoots.
Yeah.
There was no next morning.
Right.
Everybody was moved on. One of the best gifts that has come up is that you can now put your monitor on an iPad, and as
You can
like
see it.
I can be like, no, move back, move forward. Or on this last shoot, my scriptee was about the same height and
Oh,
size
right.
as me,
Yeah.
so I had to like sit in for me so that we can get this framed up. So she
Yeah.
was my stand-in as well.
Definitely use standards.
that's-
Always use standards, right? For sure.
Great.
But I think that ultimately there's moments where you are looking at the footage and you're like, oh, I wish I had taken the time to watch this afterwards because I would have done another take and made it. And that's why I like being on the other side of the camera. You can do that immediately,
Right.
or cut it before you even get through the shot and readjust.
Right.
And so, and then that being the editor, it's like, all right, well, how do we make that work now that we didn't get exactly what I had in mind? Because there's always going to be a kind of a gap between your vision and the DP's vision.
Right. But if you know what film you're making, right? So to your point about who do you trust? How many opinions do you get, right? So I think that's up to you on your set. You're also the director, so you have to also own that. You don't want a million voices coming at you with suggestions. That's not anybody else's job but yours. But you pick out the one that you can go over to and say, I think I was doing this. You notice that? Or so if you're specific enough about it, it's probably the DP that's going to be your friend for this, honestly.
Yeah.
it would be my
As small as our group is, we always have a script supervisor.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
and so they're just technically staring at the screen for the dialogue, but then also he picked it up at this time, that kind of thing. And so then my wife is about performance and about that. So it's good having those two different eyes upon mine that help. But the script supervisor, it's all technical and that. She's not worried about performance. She's just worried about those little things.
Right.
But then so you're kind of splitting up who you trust for that part, for us.
And I think there's a sense of, as we sort of touched on it before, about don't do yourself any disservice by rushing things along. In my case, I would always tell my DP, listen, I'm gonna call action, and then I may not do anything for the first 2 minutes because I need to find my character. So you can let the camera run, don't freak out. I'm assembling my thoughts because I need to get into this headspace, and I'll stop when I'm ready. Because you can cut that out in post, right? That's super easy. So rather than feel like, oh, action, I gotta act because I'm on now, right? Don't do that. Like it's a different beast than a regular film because you're also directing and you're in it yourself. So you gotta make allowances for that, for sure, right? But all of you know it. Are you brushing your hair, Jason, or are you having a set question?
I can ask you a question.
He Cedric you.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he's Cedric guy.
Yeah.
I saw the Cedric move. It was delicious. Here it comes. This is a tough one. Go ahead.
No, it's not. I don't think it's tough. What I wonder is, how do you know when you've talked yourself into doing it, and it's not in your best interest, right? So, Lucas, you've said multiple times, which is a thing I feel viscerally, which is, if you hurt the project, it's not the right decision.
Right.
So,
Well, okay. Finish your question.
yeah,
I'll add that.
I know there's another dimension.
Yeah,
to that
exactly.
too,
Yeah.
Right. But it's like it could be in service to something else.
Sure.
But how do you know, or have you figured out a way to stop yourself from doing the thing because it feels good, it feels important, and you managed to convince yourself it was the thing to do? I'll do everything. Has anybody found a way to stop? And I understand, like, have a trusted friend, someone who will tell you. It's not really a thing that happens in real life.
Right.
This just, we all talk about it. But most people go like, you want to do it, do it. I support you. Has anybody figured out a way to have a trigger to go like, I probably shouldn't do that actually?
Well,
I'm talking myself.
I mean, I can jump in, but you can also answer. I think the main thing is that you need to know why you're doing it,
Yeah.
right? Because then there are pros and cons with anything, right? So if you're an actor who feel like, well, I'm not getting the work that I deserve to get because I'm really good at this, but nobody cast me as that. So I'm going to write a script where I can do that, and then I can direct myself in it, and you can see that I can do it, right? Then that's a pro, that's a benefit, right? If you really think, if you think you can do that, then the cost could be, well, maybe your performance isn't as strong because you're also directing yourself, right? But so you have to sort of know, why am I doing it? And you're taking a risk by doing it. It may not be, you may be better in somebody else's hands, but is it still worthy of having a less than perfect product that you wrote and directed yourself, and you've got to show a character that you wanted to show, versus having somebody else direct it and you're much better in that role with another director, as long as you know what the benefits are.
Or if you're looking to start directing and you, like, I don't have a lot of money, I want to get the experience, I'll direct myself in this so that I can see what's going, like, and you know that project may not be award-winning, it's a learning project,
Right.
That's not that. I think, so with my first feature script, I had originally written that for myself because I was still acting when I started writing it. Acting more, and did the first table read or two. And I remember having a conversation with somebody because I'd been directing more and more and had directed my first film at that point. And they're like, well, if you had a choice between acting in this role or directing it, which would you do? And I didn't even hesitate. I'm like, I want to direct it. I don't care about acting. And it was like such a gut that there's no doubt in my mind that. And the older I get, the more I don't want to act that part because it's for somebody 10 years younger than me at this point.
But try to answer your question, I mean, it's a tough thing. I think it's about knowing yourself and knowing your skill set. And then if you want to push your skill set into something that you're not good at, then you can still do it. As long as you're aware that you're not going to be very good at it, and then you know why you're doing it. So it comes down to this why, I think, is the answer to your question. And then you'll make allowances depending on, well, I knew I needed to do it because of this. It's not great, but I did it for this reason and I served that purpose, right? So But ideally, we all want to make amazing movies, right? So you have to sort of constantly be aware of what are the pros and cons of sticking yourself in there, because it is a lot and it's not for everyone, but it gives you the control that I think a lot of us are sick of handing away to everybody else.
See,
So
I think I would have to audition myself if I would ever try it.
Yeah, good call.
I would put myself in front of the camera. I want to see those words come out of my mouth as that character before I would trust my decision to put myself in front of the camera. So, yeah, I couldn't let go until I saw it.
No, I think that's really
This guy
Great.
sucks.
You hear what she said?
I said I would do that, and then I would immediately fire
Oh.
myself.
Because I mean, when you look at headshots and everything, when you're casting, it's like, oh, that's them. Well, when you see them move and everything, it's like, that's not them.
Right.
And so it's the same thing. I have to fight myself.
But it's also the benefit also of like, because you wrote it and you're acting in it, even when you write it, you can sort of adjust it to sort of what you feel serves your purpose the best, right? Because sometimes we get words that sit uncomfortably in our mouths because we didn't write it. And you sort of have to work around it as an actor, trying to make it work for yourself. But when you're writing it, that's the luxury of writing and acting, is this is your chance to actually put it the way that you would have put it naturally, right? So that's a huge benefit. So I think it's a matter of sort of taking that leap of faith. If you're a writer actor, that you're going to be able to get the subtext in there that you want. Make sure your character have all the layers that you feel other people are not noticing that you can do. And then if you feel you're able to step back and give yourself the time, then you can also direct it. I wouldn't recommend, if you're trying to hone your director skills, I wouldn't recommend your first project directing yourself. I wouldn't do that. So I see the cost benefit of it, but if you're looking to direct, definitely
And
don't
both of
direct
us say
yourself.
it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you just said something about the words being in your brain. Have you had the experience of getting on set, saying the words that you wrote and being like, why did I write that? I'm changing it. And like, it doesn't come out of my mouth, but like, it was in my head.
Actually, no, I don't think so.
That's just me. I don't know that I'm like, nah, this isn't how I would say it.
Yeah.
I do, all the time.
I had on the House of Abraham, my feature that I wrote and acted in, I was originally going to co-direct it with Lisa Belcher, and she ended up directing it by herself. But that was an interesting challenge because I had written it, so I knew exactly what every moment and character was about, but yet I wasn't directing, but I was acting in it. So I could be in the scene, and I knew sort of, so that was a real challenge to sort of take my writer out of that and go, I'm here as an actor now. I'm sort of hired as an actor, so I had to sort of relinquish some of that control that I initially sort of wanted to exert over this project. So that was definitely a real exercise in something. You had a question?
Yeah, a similar question actually, in terms of how you feel about your performance changing throughout the process. As a director who does not act, I find sometimes that seeing actors or performances I didn't like on the day, seeing them in context after they've been colored or cut a certain way, like, oh, that's what they were doing. Do you ever find that find the performance, your performance in post is actually correct that you didn't like on the day as an actor director?
Yeah, anyone can jump in, but you haven't acted in it, I guess. But no, for me, I know exactly when I think something works, so I rarely get surprises in post. If anybody's around tomorrow, there's a really out there example of that. My short film Up Close plays tomorrow, and it's a real exercise at this notion of writing, acting, and directing, because that's what it is. You'll see it tomorrow. It's for better or for worse. That's what it is, and that was all. There were no inserts or cutaways in that film, so it was basically sort of.
Okay.
I had nowhere to hide for that, so I would have to do it over if I felt something didn't work. I never checked the frame once in that. I trusted my DP completely, so it was all about the subtext. That's how I think all that has to work. If you put yourself in a film that you wrote, make sure that the subtext is strong enough and that you know how to get that across, and then Bob's your uncle, so to speak.
I would just, because I started in theater, like a lot of actors do, and sometimes what feels right, because we're grounded into our bodies, is actually too big for the film. So occasionally there are those moments when I'm like, thank God we did another take, or I wish I had done a take where I brought it inward instead of letting it go outward, but I don't have that. I'll usually cut to the reaction.
But that's also a skill set. That comes down to, again, where you feel your skill set is at, right? If you're newer, starting out, then I recommend you watch every take. Because then you start figuring out, well, wow, I'm really large here, or this is not what I'm trying to get across, whatever, then double check it. So it all depends on where you're at in your various hats, right? Whether you're a new writer or a new actor or whatever, you have to adjust accordingly. So, yeah, self-awareness is massive when you do something like writing, acting, directing. Yeah. Over here, we'll start with you.
Lucas, this is specific to your short, close. Was there any hesitation on your end, when you decided to make it? Having seen it, kind of like, I kind of realized, like, if I was in your shoes, the amount of like fear that I would have had and sort of questioning, okay, I'm gonna do it this way. Because it requires a full commitment to that.
100%.
And like, what was that for you in terms of, did you have any of those doubts going in?
Right.
What kind of made you decide, okay, this is the way I'm gonna do that?
So for those who haven't seen Up Close, hopefully you'll get a chance to see it tomorrow. It's very Lucas-centric, let me put it that way. I had huge fears, and I really had no idea if it was going to work. But I wasn't going to try to make just another short. If I was going to do this, I was going to try to do something differently. And so I thought, let me take a gamble on that and see if you can tell a story almost by what you don't see in a way, which you know what that means when you see the film. But yeah, I had no idea if it was going to work. Editing, I had no idea if it was going to work until I saw it with a group of people. I had no idea if people were going to get sick of it by minute 2. But by minute 12, the feedback I've been getting has been great. And I really think it works now that I've seen it a lot of times on the bigger screen. But yeah, 100%. I was super, super concerned that it wasn't going to work. But I think with anything with indie film, all your indie filmmakers, a lot of you in here, you know that like this is your chance to take risks. You're not Hollywood. You're not spending $40 million on this project. So what's the point of it if you don't take risks, right? If you don't take risks with storytelling, that's the only way you're going to move your skill set forward. Take some chances. Why be like everyone else? It's like, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. And then you move on and you learn from that. Yeah.
As actor, director, writers, you were talking about preparation, really overly preparing because on the day you want to be super present. And I've come to my set, like having to direct my fellow actor a little bit more than I expected to, and maybe was a little lacking a moment or two. And I wondered if there were any specific tricks or tips in that preparation, something that you might not have done if you were just directing to really prepare yourself to be super present. Was there anything that you invented or adopted that, wouldn't have been as necessary if you were just directing?
I think just with the films that I've just directed, we've done like a table read, and if there's physicality, like we've done fight choreography or intimacy, just kind of setting up those specific movements in advance, but not really a lot of rehearsal. Whereas with the things that I'm in, I've asked my co-actors to spend some time rehearsing with me so that we can find the beats, find the moments, kind of work through more of that. And I think that's really helpful because you're not like finding it on set like you would with a lot of shoots.
So yeah, I think obviously you just mentioned rehearsal, of course, to make sure everybody's on the same page. That's not an answer to your question, but I think a little trick that I think, like, normally I would start wide and then go in for mediums and then go in for close-ups, right? I think when you're doing this with other actors and you're directing and acting in yourself, a trick could be to start with close-ups because you're not in the shot, so you can see what they're doing. Hone it there and then do the medium, so then they know what they've already done.
That's great.
And so then you're on the scene, right? So that's a little trick that'll sort of, you just reverse the order of how you would shoot that in order to see what you're gonna get. And then when you're in medium, they've already had that practice with the scene so that they're not gonna change that dramatically from what they've just done in the close-up. So you find ways around being present and also being a director's hat, but like prep is the main thing, but then little tricks like that can help.
Yeah. For writers and writer-directors, do you find if there is any difficulty in interpreting your written work as you're translating it into a film?
Not necessarily difficulty in interpreting it, but sometimes you absolutely have to change. Like I had no interest in directing. I would consider myself a writer primarily. But when I directed, and I didn't think I was gonna like directing. And then when I started doing it, I absolutely loved it because it's really a way just to get the story you're trying to tell as close to possible that you have in your head, and it's never gonna be what it is in your head because it's made up, you know, and the characters are not real, and the locations, I never write for location, I write all imagination. So you do have to adjust. I have to adjust that way when you get to the filming part. And you have to be flexible and just try to get as, you know, close as you can to the all the pieces coming together to get the story you're trying to tell.
So have you been stuck on a set where you've written something and then as a director, you're like, "Ooh, this is not working at all. What was I thinking? I'm gonna just move on."
No, I'm a very, I over prepare in pre-production, which is very, very important because, you know, as we all know, things go wrong no matter how much you prepare. So like over preparing like minimizes how much you're gonna have to adjust or something's not gonna work. So I don't think I've ever had a situation where, the only situations I have is like running out of time. And then you have to make those hard choices about what you're going to do.
None of you know what that's like.
I know, nobody knows that.
You're out of time.
Yeah, like in Dissection Day, there was one thing that really, really bothers me every time I watch it, that we had to cut out a scene because it was night. We weren't really running behind, but we were running out of time, and I was like, okay, fine, we'll let it go because we'd sort of established something, and then it makes one moment in the film a little confusing. And I think we all have those moments in all of our work that, you know, but maybe people don't know this, but you do. So.
And David, writer, director.
When I write, I'm directing because of our budgets. You know, if I can't shoot it, then I won't write it. So, you know, it's hard to get out of my head, you know, because, you know, I want to see it come to life. And so, you know, this last one we're doing now, Letty and Jack, is the first film that I've done where I've let some of that go. Like I haven't a building exploding. I never would have done that in our previous five films, but I figured out a way to do it. So now it's in the film. And so like as I'm writing, I mean, I'm listening to music as I write because I'm building my soundtrack as I'm writing. So I'm directing as I'm writing, and I'm making sure that I can put everything that I think of and put on paper on screen, you know, because I don't want to, you know, not do it. You know, I write to make the film. You know, I don't just write because I want to write a script. I want to make a movie. And so I always make sure that I am going to that route. And so.
And I just want to add to that point, actually, because I work a lot of script doctoring as well. And when I get a script to get feedback on, sometimes it's the director writer and sometimes not. And the question is, are you going to direct this? Because if you're directing it with then all these things I see in the script that wouldn't really look right on the page or feel right on the page, I'm not going to give you notes on that because you know why it's there and you're going to direct it anyway. But if you're going to put this script out to producers to raise money, here's what you need to change in order to make it look like a real script. So there is things you can sort of get away with if you know you're also going to direct it.
Yeah, so I would just want to add to that, like when I started directing, it did change my writing. Because my first directing experience, it was The Squirrels in the Attic, and my first scene, when I wrote it, I hadn't directed, so you really do think differently when you haven't made something. And the first scene is a character going into this house where there's a public defender and there's a sex offender inside the house. So she's nervous. It was character trait, and I have a live squirrel that she responds to, which seems like nothing when you're a writer. And that was the first I did the shot list, and I was like, what? How the hell am I gonna do that? And so and then so it's very different. So now I think, and what I did, I changed it to a porch ornament, and she throws a rock at it, and it ended up being great because it comes back when she leaves the house, and so unless I had a squirrel wrangler, they know that I can't do this, and it's very little things like that if you haven't directed, you don't think about.
Right.
As someone looking at scripts or something, you probably see stuff like that.
Yeah,
you can't do that, or that's going to be really hard or expensive to do.
Right. Well, that, again, depends on budgets, but again, it boils down to the fact of if you're going to act, write, and direct, whatever, you're putting yourself out there. And if you're going to put out a mediocre project because you overstepped your limits, then it's not worth it, maybe. Unless you're just looking for experience, and then it is worth it, right? So again, it comes back to why you're doing this and what's it for. And then you have to sort of adjust it based on that, because you're putting yourself out there by putting all these hats. Like, you can't hide behind, well, I wasn't the director, or I didn't write this, right? You did all of that. So you have to own it for better or for worse. And to me, it's gratifying, but I can also see why sometimes it may not work. And I certainly wouldn't do it for all projects. I haven't directed myself in a feature, which is something I would consider, but it's definitely a whole bag of bones. There's a whole different bag of bones to a short, right? Because a short, you can sort of keep everything together in your head, and a feature, it's a whole different work process. So I think I would try it, but it definitely would be. I mean, House of Abraham was meant to be that, and it didn't be that. It ended up not being that.
Yeah, I'm curious on that point, Lucas, like, if it was your choice, like, budget wasn't in it, would you prefer to direct yourself in a feature, or would you always prefer to have someone direct you?
I would prefer to direct myself in the feature.
Okay.
But as I said, I mean, there could be costs with that, right? Because I think of all my hats, the least proficient hat is my director hat. I think I'm a solid writer, I think I'm a solid actor, and I think I'm a newbie, relatively speaking, with the director. I think there's so much that I've yet to learn because I haven't directed a feature yet. But I would be willing to take that chance, understanding that it may be to my detriment. But it's, unless you push yourself, you prep as much as you can with shorts and so forth, and you can make shorts for the rest of your life, and it can all be the same level of whatever it is. So I think as an artist, we have a responsibility to try to push our abilities and try to become better at this and this and this. So I think there's value in that, even if it ends up not being the perfect project. It could have been better with something else, which sort of leads into what you were talking about a little bit. So it's a give and take.
Lucas, would you consider creating a supporting role for yourself in your first feature
That's
director role?
it's actually to lower your involvement as an actor, for sure, as well. But then what's the point?
Well, because
To
you
a
have
certain
the
extent.
experience of directing the
Right.
feature.
But I would already have done that in a short, I think, if I've done that enough in the shorts. But you could, I mean, to me, it depends on the character, whether I'm right for that character or not. I wouldn't stick myself in it just because of that, because then it is a project. I would, if the role is right for me, and I know I could do it better than anyone else I can think of, then I would do it. But if not, I would get somebody else to do it, for sure.
Do you feel comfortable explaining why you decided to not continue to co-direct with Lisa?
Well, it was a long process, and it was Lisa and myself sort of talked about how much we should talk about it. But basically, the story of House of Abraham, the feature that you can all check out on streaming, she called me up and said, I have a little bit of money. We've done a short together. Let's make a feature together. You and I will act in it, and we'll co-direct, and you come up with a script. So I came up with this script, and it turned out pretty well. But it was just going to be me and her in a house for $40,000, right? Like nothing. So I wasn't going to really make a big thing out of it. And then the script turned out well, and all of a sudden she raised real money. And the further down the road we got, it became a thing of like, well, maybe we need a name or something to sort of warrant that budget. And Lisa was so good at producing and getting everything together that I think she was not necessarily in the role head space, because there was so many other moving parts. That I think the closer we got to the shoot, we both kind of realized, the money is big, we need some kind of name, but also Lisa was so in the headspace of producing and directing that that became a compromise in a way of her stepping away from the lead role to make room for Natasha Henstridge in a way. But then the compromise, then she wanted to solo direct. If she wasn't going to act in it,
Sure.
She wanted to solo direct. And so a week before, I think, we came to this agreement, and I was like, the only reason I really did it was to direct a feature. But here we are,
Sure.
a week away from shooting, and we had done everything as co-directors up until that point. Every decision was co-made. But then it was a win-win in a way. We'd get Natasha to play the female lead, and I could step away from that. And so Lisa did an amazing job, but it was definitely an adjustment of sort of what my expectation was. So it was a challenge on set to also sometimes sort of, I deliberately stayed away from scenes that I wasn't in to give Lisa the space. I didn't want to be the one overlooking, the shoulder, like, I should also be directing. But if I was in the scene,
would you really make that choice?
I really think she could do that.
Interesting.
If I was in the scene, I could put my spin on in the director-actor hat in a subtle way, of course, but that's the way that the cookie crumbles. So, you make adjustments, and I think in the end it was a great decision.
Thank you for answering.
Sure.
Very good. That's tough too.
Was that?
I said kudos to you for being able to step
Oh, yeah, yeah,
back and stay back.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie about that.
Was that your first project where you wrote it and didn't direct it at like Equity Shorts?
Yes.
Okay.
I hadn't thought about that, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that experience, were you surprised by the direction of your own writing, something different that surprised you in a positive way, especially for your own performance?
Well, I write with editing in mind.
Okay.
So the script was pretty much identical to what ended up. We took some stuff out to trim some of the fat, for sure. But it was written with editing, so all the edits is already in there pretty much. But then you have actors come in that give you something more than what I thought it was, right? Like Lin Shaye, who's in it, is such a legend in many ways, and she comes in like a racehorse with ideas and a drive, and it's about holding her back so that you don't veer into spoof, right? Because she's very comedic, and then every now and then let her freak flag fly, right? Let her go, and then she just elevated stuff that you can only hope for that when you write something like this, right? So and Natasha is being super grounded and stuff. So but in terms of like scenes that I thought would work or didn't work or whatever, it was pretty much all the way I saw it, actually. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add? Anything, other things that have been covered, James?
I have a question. Have any of y'all had because I've had this experience myself where you directed another director who isn't directing, but know that there's that potential for, again, like you were saying, okay, it's an interesting check. Have y'all had any of that challenge? I know, like David, you and I worked together, but I was still technically directing. But like I've directed Jason, I've directed Cedric. So any of those moments for y'all, or is that a stupid question?
No, it's a great question.
It's a great question.
I didn't even think about that when you were, because I mean, when we did that thing, Barely Remember, I mean, you were really good about stepping away and just acting. And so, yeah, and never is in my thing like this guy is stepping over toes or anything. So, yeah, you were able to do that, but you're the only other one I've ever worked with in that capacity. So.
I think it's a danger for sure to be known as that actor who also writes and directs and comes in and wants to make it difficult for everybody else. So I think it's definitely something you have to be aware of. Because I think when I come on a set, I definitely don't want to be that actor who's like, well, are you sure you want the camera there, right? So I think that's a subtle way of like.
I have experience.
Okay, no, but I think, but also that is the beauty of independent cinema as opposed to sort of network TV, right? Where you can ask no questions, you fucking hit your marks, know your lines, and go back to your trailer right away. Like no collaboration at all, right? The beauty of indie is that it is about collaboration. It's not about the money or fame, right? It's about the project. So what I would expect is to be heard in rehearsals when we talk about the script.
Particularly in rehearsals, right?
Yeah, in rehearsals you want to be heard. You want to throw in your concerns, your suggestions, whatever, and then that's how that's handled. Not on the day on the set, right? By then you got to trust the director knows what they're doing, and you don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
And get the name for that, right? So I'm very clear as an actor, writer, director when I'm doing what, and don't want to be like the director in somebody else's movie they're directing. What's the point of that?
Right.
But rehearsals in indie where you can have that talk is where you can develop your character and say, I'm wondering if we can do something like that. What do you think? That's the beauty of independent filmmaking because there's room for that.
So I remember when we did our thing, I felt like I was too afraid to overly direct you, and I think you were afraid to so it was very awkward for a minute of neither of us wanting to be very assertive. Right. And what was a very over the top scene where you get knocked off the can because people are banging in it's high art.
No, but I can see, and that's why it's a very worthy question because you work with friends like I work with a lot of people in here, and it becomes you sort of want to respect each other, and so you become too careful sometimes of tiptoeing around things, but that is not the way to do it, right? Then bring it up on the rehearsal and say, listen, I feel awkward about this. Can we just move on? That's the way to handle it. Like you don't want to have any regrets after.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
I think I came into that.
No,
but like once you've done a lot of the other roles, it's really hard to be a bobblehead actor. Like not see the things that the light's not on me.
Like none of us can watch a movie now like regular people, right? Because all notices.
Because you see the things.
Like we're pulled out.
You want to be helpful. So, but I think you're right. It's about establishing that now. Like when somebody in indie film wants to work, it's like, do you like collaboration? Do you want me to just be an actor showing up just to be lines, or are you open to ideas? Because if you're not going to be, I don't know if I want to do that project. It depends on the project. Like sometimes you're bored, and sometimes you're like, actually that's going to be really frustrating as an actor if I can't contribute thoughts.
I think especially like if it's like if I'm a young director and you're on my set and you notice that the lights are wrong, I would want to know. It's one thing to say, I want to make a different movie than what you're making. But or we all know in independent cinema, I remember talking with Yaki Smith one time and he got to direct for HBO and he's like, it was the first time I directed everything without worrying about what time tacos were arriving. Because we're used to being in charge of all of it. And so, yeah, you want to know if the boom was pointing the wrong direction and I didn't notice. Like, it is a fine line.
Exactly. You got to pick your battles as well, right? Because you can slow a production down constantly by doing that. So you also have to make the people sort of make their mistakes in a way, or if they want it a particular way. If only something is egregiously out of continuity or something after all the rehearsals on the day, I would say I'm pretty sure I wasn't wearing that jacket when I came in.
Right.
Just make sure, go back and check, whatever. Some dumb.
Or
thing
why
like
am I
that.
laughing? The last
Some
scene,
dumb like
someone
that.
died. Like,
character-wise, I would have assumed you've done all that work before. Like, it's not for it's a waste of everybody's time to go, why am I entering this room? Fucking sort that out. Like,
because you don't want to be a waiter anymore. That's
first thing. Like, don't come at me with that question now, right? But something technical that you catch because you've been doing it more than others, absolutely. That's a subtle way of making that melt, right? Maybe to the AD, even not even to the director, right?
Oh, that's a good point.
I mean, I always appreciate when actors, and like so Jackie's director, but she's really good at, and I directed her as an actor, and she's very good at separating them, like, and so I think I've been very lucky with my actors. I don't work with a lot of actors who've directed, but I love an actor or anybody on set will point out those things that are going to be a detriment to the film, right? And I don't feel that that's stuck in my toes.
Right.
I love the communication.
But I've been on productions where the director maybe was not very confident or experienced, and all of a sudden there's too many chefs in the kitchen.
Right.
And then if you
That's
give
a good point,
actors
too.
if you give actors a finger, sometimes they'll take a hand and an arm, and then the whole thing is like, well, I think we should also, and you're like, shut the.
And we consider a musical number, everybody.
To figure out what they're doing. So it definitely is a pick your battle kind of, you don't want to.
Can I add with her, just like, she's such an actor's director, and I think I told you this a couple times, but like, I feel so comfortable, I can go to her and be like, I just don't, it feels awkward for me, for my character to be doing this right now, and she's so patient and listens to why, but then if she doesn't agree, knows how to explain, like, why the character is doing that, which, for me as an actor, is like, for all of us, is like a breath of fresh air, because most times I get directors like, because that's how I wrote it. And I'm like, okay, now you're not gonna get it.
Because this is
I don't know.
Yeah. We all know the term actor's director, right? And that means it's a director who understands what actors might need, you know.
Yeah, so even though I can't act, I know what you're experiencing.
Right, but it's like telling someone to cry is not helpful, but if you can explain to them why they're sad, they may get a tear, right? So there's different ways of being that actor's director and figuring out what that language is, absolutely, for sure.
I have a question. When you're new to the whole filmmaking process and you just want to like learn, what are the best ways maybe being of service if you're not part of a project, but you can be of service in some way? What would that look like?
Depends on what you're after.
Okay.
What are you looking to do?
I'm an actress, but I'd also like to do the things that you're describing, like writing it, filming it. So I'd like to kind of just get into the art, right?
Right, so as an actor, I think the moment I realized that I could be more than an actor and also a writer was when I was in a project and I was be like, ooh, I would have written it this way. Or I would have put the camera over this. Why are they not covering that or whatever? So once I started having those thoughts, I realized I'm moving into a space of where maybe I can do that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of being aware in the project you're in and sort of what you think works and what doesn't work. And then it's a matter of, as I mentioned with Jason earlier, figuring out like what is it you're after? If you're looking to do something that you wouldn't be cast as, well, then figure out how to write something for yourself where that comes out, and then share it with better writers than yourself, and end up with a little short segment that you can shoot for your reel, right? Where you do something that's different. You can start with there as an actor. Just make a little 3-minute something where you get to do something you wouldn't normally get to do, and with your friends and family in this community, make that. And then you'll figure out, like, from there, if you're interested in also directing that you just did of yourself, doing a monologue or whatever it is. So you can you can always move your skill set ahead by being in this community, by starting small.
I also think too, don't be afraid to volunteer in PA.
Yeah.
Go and-
being on
and
set.
most good directors, if they have a PA, know they're there for something other than carrying cable, and they'll
Right.
take the time to show you how it all works.
Right, but if you're already an actor and you're already on set, that might have served the same purpose. Like if you haven't been on set, yeah, be a PA, but if you're already on set, you can watch around you.
Yeah.
Like that's a learning curve all around you.
And I think you also have to dissect stuff from, if you watch, from, shot selection to music, just really study it, not just be entertained by it, but, why is this the shot? Why are they moving the camera? All that, just really study why the director is doing what he's doing when he's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the unwritten thing we haven't talked about and touched upon here is editing, right? Editing.
Yeah.
Make sure that you edit your own stuff, at least initially, because then you really understand
Totally.
why things matter, why you cut out of a scene a certain way, and it'll help you as an actor, writer, and a filmmaker if you also understand editing. So editing is super important, I think.
I think to add to that too is try to, before you edit your own stuff, create some kind of distance so that way you're looking at it with fresh eyes, not going, I really remember take 8 being great. And therefore you ignore 1 through 7. You might miss something amazing 1 through 7 you didn't notice. So
Correct.
I almost feel like the same way when you direct your own stuff. Take distance and look at it with that different brain.
Correct. Don't see yourself, absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah,
Try
one of
not
the
to see
things I found from editing the things that I'm acting in is like the first time I watch everything, it's Melissa watching Melissa. And Ida is like, oh, I look fat in that take. Oh, my hair is weird. And I have to watch it a few times and then like let it sit for a while. And then I can come back to it and watch the characters and see the character doing what the character needs to. If I can't get that distance, I can't edit it. But at some point it clicks and all of a sudden I'm like, all right, these two people are having a conversation that I believe. And I don't see me anymore. And that's when it starts to work. But it's hard because we are, especially as an actor, you're like, I want to look good. I'm on my best side. I want the light to hit me right. And when you're in the moment, it's not always.
Prefer to be shot up.
Yeah,
Right.
you're like, yeah, I'm gonna have to look like that. That's what I look like. Shit.
But it's always the thing, like people who are not in the business, whatever, from outside of actors, they all think that actors sit in front of the mirror and practice, right? And it's like, that's the last thing you want to do. Like as an actor, you're thinking from inside out, always, right? That's why sometimes models have a difficult time being actors because they're so used to seeing themselves from the outside in.
Where's the act?
So inside out, right?
It's been really helpful as an actor, even if you're not a director, to sit in an editing room and get an idea of what the storytelling looks like, because then you understand when someone's like, I don't need this side of you. I this is the vision of this. It gets you out of your head a little bit and also helps you see the bigger perception rather than just your trajectory.
Yep.
So that's it. If you have an opportunity to sit in the editing room and watch it come together.
I think it helps you remind you too that you're in service of a story when you
Yes.
look at the edit and not just I'm Jim in a movie or whatever it is. Like you realize you're one part of a bigger thing that all has to kind of fit cohesively.
Yep.
You're not saying actors are self-involved.
Exactly. Watch Up Close tomorrow. Tell me that. Awesome. I think. Are we good?
I think that was a great job. So our next panel will be in about 15 minutes. We'll be doing our